In today's video, we'll be revealing how your experience changes dramatically depending on whether you've saved 500,000, 1 million, or $5 million. Through years of working with retirees at each of these savings levels, John Conley and the other partners here at Rubino and Lang Wealth Partners have worked with clients who understand exactly what life looks like with each nest egg size. All right, John. And today we're going to discuss the situations of people who retire at three different asset levels. Can you help us understand what differences and what similarities we should be expecting to discover as you go through this?
Yeah, we want to show you the real differences in lifestyle, security, and options that come with different retirement savings amounts and help you plan for the level that best meets your goals.
Okay, perfect. I love this idea. So we're going to go through these three levels here. The first one we start with is someone with $500,000.
Correct.
Perfect. All right, let's get into that.
So first up, let's meet Sarah. So Sarah worked as a school teacher for 35 years. She dedicated her career to education, and through diligent saving with her 403b, she was able to retire with 500,000. Sarah's a widow with one adult son who she was able to contribute to his college education. In between her Social Security benefits and her investment withdrawals, she now has an income of approximately $55,000 per year. So Sarah represents a large segment of retirees. Many Americans retirement age with savings in this range. How does Sarah describe her life? Well, she's generally content, feels fortunate, and she enjoys taking one or two vacations each year. Oftentimes, she might drive for one and fly for the other. Sarah has a car that's about 6 years old, it's reliable, and she lives in the same modest condo that she's owned for 20 years in a well established neighborhood. She values her neighbors in the familiarity of her surroundings. Now, Sarah has considered updating her kitchen, but the quotes that came in were around 40,000, and she had decided against that expense. She goes out to eat once or twice a month, often meeting friends for lunch and taking advantage of senior discounts. Like her friends, they often have a glass of wine at home beforehand or share an appetizer to keep costs down. One of Sarah's main concerns is healthcare costs. Sarah was surprised to learn how much Medicare doesn't cover. She's aware of estimates suggesting that a typical retiree needs to save a significant amount for these out of pocket expenses. This makes her hesitant to join maybe a fitness class or even though she knows she could be more active. She also wishes she can contribute more to her grandson's extracurricular activities, but needs to be careful with her budget. While she enjoys spending time with her family and volunteering in her community, the worry about potential unexpected medical bills and leaving something for her son creates some underlying stress. On a stress scale of 1 to 10, Sarah might say she's at a 5 or a 6. She's grateful for what she has saved, especially since she started saving later in her career, but the fear of outliving her savings is always in the back of her mind.
So it sounds like Sarah's situation, she was pretty comfortable in her retirement, but she was a little bit surprised about some of these, not hidden expenses, but how expensive some of these lifestyle costs were in retirement.
Yeah, when you think about it, someone saves $500,000 for their retirement years. That's a lot of money, and
Yeah.
she should be commended that she saved that amount of money. She has a strong income between pension and her Social Security. It gives her around $55,000 a year to spending. So she's comfortable in her spending, but she's also cognizant of the fact that she has to be aware of her budget and that the monies that she has saved for retirement has to be able to produce the lifestyle that she needs.
Right.
The good news is the amount of money that she has saved is able to afford her the lifestyle that she might want. So she's able to do the things that she wants and she feels comfortable with,
Yep.
but she's also very aware of maybe some hidden costs and not being too spendthrift, so to say.
I like that. And it kind of comes back to what we talk about with with our retirement planning process here about understanding your budget needs and making sure that your portfolio has enough to live that lifestyle. And it sounds like Sarah's done a good enough job at that she's able to achieve that lifestyle.
Yeah, Sarah's one of those type of people that if she earned an extra 20% in her portfolio, she wasn't going to change her lifestyle that much anyways.
Yep.
So it was making sure that she was in the right risk tolerance, the right portfolio balance, diversified and so forth to suit her needs. And she came in and she had a very good understanding of how she envisioned her retirement.
I like that. So we've laid out the scenario for someone with $500,000 here. How does retirement change if someone has reached the $1 million?
Perfect. I'll give you an example. Now let's talk about David. So David was an IT manager at a regional bank. He started saving in his late 20s and diligently contributed to his 401k. David was thrilled when he reached the 1 million in retirement savings. This puts David in a much smaller percentage of American retirees. With his Social Security and investment income, he plans to spend around $80,000 annually. David and his wife are enjoying a comfortable retirement. They own a home in a pleasant suburban neighborhood. Shortly after retiring, they decided to do a renovation to their master bathroom, opting for a mid-range renovation that cost around $30,000. They felt they could justify the expense and enjoy the upgrade. They typically purchase a new car every 6 or 7 years and alternate, ensuring they always have reliable vehicles. One of their cars is a comfortable sedan, while the other is a slightly more premium SUV. They're happy to be able to contribute regularly to their granddaughter's college funds. David and his wife enjoy dining out once or twice a week with their friends, often trying new restaurants and occasionally sharing a nice bottle of wine. They prioritize their health by being members of a local gym. While they don't have an in home meal preparation, they occasionally use a healthy meal delivery service when they want a break from cooking. David hopes to leave a modest inheritance to each of his children if their investments perform well. So for leisure, they enjoy traveling a couple times a year, with one trip often being a cruise or a visit to a national park, and the other to see family out of state. On a financial stress scale, David would likely rate his at a 2 or a 3. He feels secure, but is still mindful of potential large expenses.
I know you said the stress level there is way lower than it was for Sarah's, right? So that even though again 500,000 to a million obviously is a large difference in a retirement portfolio, their lifestyles were also not drastically different, but enough that like when you hear that, you go, okay, David and his wife are a little bit more comfortable in some of their lifestyle changes. They go once or twice a week instead of once or twice a month. Um, they have cars that they switch up more frequently than Sarah said that she did. Why? So I guess the question becomes when you have a portfolio of $1 million, what are some of those opportunities that open up to you versus having only $500,000?
Yeah. So I mean, imagine if you have 500,000, you earn 10% on your money, that's 50,000.
Hmm.
Versus a person with $1 million and they earn 10%, that's 100,000. It's a
Hmm.
100% difference there
Yeah.
in a return to a person. So obviously, a financial advisor is never going to tell someone to not save as much, right? But the more you have, the more you have that to work for you.
Okay.
And it's not just a matter of the how much money I have, a million versus 500. Is does your $1 million, can it provide you the level of income to provide the lifestyle that you're looking for in your retirement?
Okay.
Um, we have people who come in with $1 million and they're very conservative. They're very frugal and they don't do a whole lot and they don't spend a lot. But we always want to make sure that the level of money that you have is going to be able to provide the lifestyle that you're looking for.
I like that. What's the eighth wonder of the world, compound interest, right? Is that because it's interesting how, like you said, like when you get to that higher portfolio, like that, just you can let that money kind of work for you and provide you that lifestyle that you've kind of wanted to have, or like that again that you might already kind of have, but it just kind of that I don't want to say the word freedom, but it just kind of gives you that flexibility, I guess.
It gives you a flexibility. It is going to provide you with what you're looking for. It doesn't mean that you have to you take your eye off the ball or you could become irresponsible or overly aggressive in your
Okay.
portfolio because market corrects itself. Then all of a sudden, someone can lose 100,000 versus 50,000 on the
Oh,
flip
okay.
side. Okay, um, but the key is to making sure that you understand how you want to envision retirement and
Okay.
have a really good idea of what is it that you want to do? How often do you want to travel? Are you going to stay local, Florida for 6 months? But it all comes back to is how do you envision retirement? Where your income is coming from, and can we sustain your retirement and still meet your goals with the amount of money that you've saved?
I love that. I was gonna ask you that question, and you positioned it perfectly on how you would answer it already. So I love the way that you just recapped that. Again, understanding retirement, understanding where your portfolio is and what your portfolio needs are, making sure that you're balanced correctly, and just making sure where those sources of income are going to be while you're in retirement.
Yeah.
So we just discussed 500,000 and a million, and those obviously are drastically different because that 500K is or only half of a million. Let's get into $5 million, and I feel like that's going to be a drastic difference, or even more dramatic than this $1 million situation.
Yeah, obviously, saving $5 million for your retirement versus a million is a big difference. But you have to also probably realize the person who saved 5 million versus someone who saved a million was probably in different levels of income in their working years versus
Perfect.
retirement years. So sometimes there's a drastic difference there.
Okay, let's go a little bit more into her situation now.
Sure. So let's get to meet Eleanor. So Eleanor was a successful real estate developer for over 30 years. The first decade was challenging as she built her business, but eventually it became profitable. By the time she was nearing retirement, she had accumulated around 3 million in savings, and then she sold a significant property for an additional 2 million, bringing her total retirement funds to around $5 million. Eleanor is undoubtedly in the top 1% of retirees. Eleanor and her husband are enjoying a very comfortable lifestyle. They've decided to delay taking their Social Security to maximize their future benefits. With their investment income, they are spending in the neighborhood of $300,000 annually. They take numerous trips each year, including international travel, often flying business or first class. They trade in their luxury vehicles every 3 to 4 years, always having the latest models. They were able to fully fund their children's education in, and are now establishing generous trust funds for their grandchildren. Eleanor and her husband are very focused on their well being, working with personal trainers, having private chef prepare nutritious meals several times a week. They recently purchased a vacation condo in Florida, adding to their real estate portfolio. They are active members of their local golf club and are considering joining the local yacht club in their vacation destination for social connections. Financially, Eleanor would say her stress level is close to zero. She feels very secure and doesn't worry about unexpected expenses derailing their plans. However, their lives are very busy with travel and social engagements, and occasionally they feel overscheduled. While financial worries are absent, the general challenges of aging and health are still considerations.
So it sounds to me, wrapping up Eleanor's situation here, that it's not like a money lifestyle situation. They have enough money to do what they want with it. It sounds like what they want to do is make sure that they can enrich the lives of the people that they love with it.
Yeah, like when we sat down with Eleanor, she became a client, and we've worked with her for many years. And we saw the growth of her building the business and the eventual the selling of some parts of
Yep.
the business and so forth. And even though they know they were comfortable to retire and they knew how they wanted to live their lives and so forth, working with her was less about making sure that you're not going to run out of money,
Right.
but it's more or less about how do we grow the money in a smart and efficient manner, and then how do we reduce taxes, estate taxes. What if someone gets sick and has to go to a nursing home? As well off as they are, a nursing home stay could derail this.
Yep.
A nursing home stay is roughly $15,000 per month. Someone has a long stay in a nursing home, that could have a dramatic effect. So the goal with them was now is how do we protect it from estate taxes? How do we protect it from nursing home? And how do we get it to the next generation in a smart way so that their kids and grandkids can benefit from this?
I was reading an article. I wish I had it in front of me so I could make sure I could quote and source it. It talks about how like spending at the beginning of your retirement is high because you want to do all the things that you didn't get to do in your working years, and it's like again with Eleanor, it's like they got to do whatever they want anyways, and then you kind of slow down to like the slow go years where you're kind of more situated at home, spending more time with family, and then there's the no go years where again, as your longevity, as you start to get older in life, you were just talking about how like health expenses and everything start to kind of creep up. So your expenses in retirement can kind of creep up at the end. And if you're not properly structured in your retirement portfolio, those costs can really eat away at what you might want to be trying to send off to the next generation.
Yeah, like at the beginning year, sometimes we do balloon income. So you're taking more income in your younger years when you're more active and you're healthy. You're never going to be as healthy as you are today, and making sure that you're enjoying travel. And then at the advanced age, we see the stats that people reduce their spending by 20-25%. And then there's the no-go years. But the concern for anyone later years is, how do we protect it if there's a nursing home stay, and how do we get it to the next generation in the most tax efficient manner?
I think that's the big difference between like your typical wealth manager and someone that has a focus on retirement planning and wealth in retirement. Is there's the people that just want to focus on returns and getting you, oh hey, here's you made 10% in the market last year, blah blah blah. I like that you guys really focus on helping people through the retirement process. It's not just, hey, here's what you need from your portfolio, let's move on. You think about estate planning, you think about healthcare planning, you think about again, reducing taxes and being able to think about if they want to pass those on either to heirs or to charities. I know you work with a couple of people that like really want to make sure that they focus on charities. Um, when somebody is thinking of again transitioning from just I'm working, I'm going to retire in the next 5 years. What are some values they should be looking into working with the retirement professional?
Well, good financial advice in this economy is critical. It's important that someone works with a financial advisor who is committed to listening to them
Yep.
and understanding what their needs are and what they're trying to achieve, and then to make sure that all aspects of their financial life are aligned. And that is not just building a portfolio and getting you the greatest return.
Hmm.
It's, hey, how do we do Roth conversions? How do we reduce our taxes? How do we protect from a nursing home? How do we get the business to next child who's running the business? But
Yep.
how do we make the rest of the estate equal if someone else is getting the business? So it's
Oh
not
yeah.
just about returns at the end of the day. It's making sure that all aspects of your financial life are aligned, and working with a financial advisor who's committed to listening to you and understanding what your needs are, and not so much them just projecting what they think you should do,
Yep.
but it should be a two-way street.
And that came through whether it was 500,000, a million, or $5 million. So what you just kind of displayed in this video. I love that. John, thank you so much for the time. I appreciate you carving time out to speak with me about this.
My pleasure.
Awesome. And now that you understand that it doesn't matter if you have 500,000, a million, or $5 million saved up for retirement, it's important to understand that whatever your plan is situated for your personal situation. We invite you to take a look at our short questionnaire. If you click on the first link in the description, to fill it out and have one of the partners here at Rubino and Langwell Partners create a personalized video that goes on to speak to your personal retirement situation. Until next time, take care.